When 26 individuals were killed in Pahalgam attack on April 22nd, India held Pakistan responsible for these deaths, and the very next day, India suspended the Indus Water Treaty. The internet was quickly filled with a barrage of thirsty memes. But this water matter is not so trivial. Since the partition of India, the two countries were at odds over how to share and manage these rivers. The geography of partition is such that the source rivers of Indus Basin are in India, whereas the river runs through Pakistan. The rivers of Indus Basin form a cohesive and unitary network of irrigation. They originate in the Himalayan mountains and flow through the states of Punjab and Sindh before emptying into the Arabian Sea in the south of Karachi. During the first years of partition, the waters of Indus were apportioned by the Inter-Dominion Accord of May 4 in 1948. This accord required India to release sufficient water through existing canals to the Pakistani region of the basin in return for an annual payment from the government of Pakistan. In 1954, after nearly 2 years of stalled negotiations, the World Bank stepped in. It presented its own proposal and established the Indus Basin Development Fund with contributions from several countries like US, UK, Canada, West Germany, Australia, and even New Zealand. To underwrite a development fund of $1 billion was written off to Pakistan to support Pakistan in constructing the necessary infrastructure. Finally, on September 19, 1960, the Indus Water Treaty with no expiry date or exit clause was signed by Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and Pakistani President Ayub Khan. This new treaty allocated the eastern rivers, Ravi, Beas and Sutlej to India and the western rivers, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab to Pakistan. But the three western rivers that went to Pakistan have 80% of the water, despite the fact that 39% of the Indus River basin is situated in India and 47% is based in Pakistan. India retained rights to use the western rivers for domestic use, irrigation and hydropower generation within limits. Pakistan, as a riparian state, was guaranteed uninterrupted flow. As per Indus Water Treaty, Pakistan has the right to monitor and inspect any construction by India on the rivers in Jammu and Kashmir and can invoke one of the two dispute settlement processes, one a neutral expert and two a court of arbitration. In the last decade, the treaty had come under growing strain. India pushed forward on projects like Kishanganga and Ratle built on the western rivers Chenab and Jhelum in Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan, deeply dependent on Indus system for over 80% of its irrigated agriculture, saw existential threat. Pakistan raised repeated objections arguing these dams threatened downstream flow and it was accusing India of manipulating the water. India insisted it was well within its rights. The legal battles dragged on, interference of neutral experts, the trials in arbitration courts. India, increasingly frustrated, felt trapped in red tape. These structured interactions mandated by the agreement helped the treaty survive more than 6 decades of hostility and dispute. But tensions were never too far beneath the surface. In 2002, the Legislative Assembly of the erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir state had passed a resolution calling for a termination of the Indus Water Treaty. And in 2011, the National Conference government had appointed a consultant to quantify the loss suffered by Jammu and Kashmir on the account of the treaty. In Pakistan, on the other hand, there has been an enduring narrative that India wants to starve it of the waters of Indus system by building dams upstream. India is allowed to use water for agriculture. Indus Water Treaty allows India to withdraw water alternatively between the months of April and October. India can build run-of-the-river projects along all the three western rivers to generate hydroelectric power. Both Salal and Bagilhar on Chenab are run-of-the-river projects. By 2023, questions around the Indus Water Treaty started gaining attention. India officially requested changes to the agreement saying it no longer reflected current political and environmental conditions. Pakistan disagreed and preferred to stick with the original terms. As a result, communication between the two countries slowed down. The Permanent Indus Commission, which had long helped to manage water sharing talks, continued its meetings, but progress appeared limited. Over time, it became harder for both sides to find a common ground. Post-Pahalgam attack in April, India has officially declared the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. Not revoked, not renegotiated, simply placed in abeyance. A diplomatic pause without precedent or provision. But the treaty did not include a provision for unilateral withdrawal. It had systems in place for dialogue, arbitration, and neutral intervention. But those did not seem to matter anymore. India had decided to act. The western side of the basin has another story. Pakistan's former Water and Power Minister Maktoob Malik called the Pahalgam attack a false flag, claiming it gave India the cover to exit the treaty's framework. The suspension of the treaty did send shockwaves across Pakistan. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif called it an act of war. Pakistan's agriculture, food, security, and drinking water rely heavily on Indus system. Low rainfall this year and limited snow means that water level is already 20 to 25% lower than last year. The sudden cutoff of flood data, flow readings, and water release schedules from India put entire communities at risk. India reportedly opened 5 gates of Bagilhar Dam on the Chenab River on May 8. The gates have been opened to manage rising water levels caused due to the heavy rainfall in Jammu and Kashmir. Under the Indus Water Treaty, it was obligated to notify Pakistan before making any significant intervention in the flow of western rivers like Chenab, which has made tensions escalate further in Pakistan. Officials in Pakistan's National Disaster Management Authority warned that the sudden release of water could trigger flood-like situations in downstream areas, raising both humanitarian and political alarm. India had not yet built any dam capable of fully blocking or diverting the flow of water to Pakistan, but it had cut off something just as vital: certainty. In the floodplains of Punjab and the fields of Sindh, uncertainty is deadly. Planting seasons depend on precision, livelihoods depend on the forecast, and now the river is a question mark. A week-long war has already been fought between the two countries. Prime Minister Modi spoke to the nation on May 13th. Terror and talks cannot take place at the same time. Terror and trade cannot take place at the same time, and the flow of water and blood cannot take place at the same time. With the suspension of Indus Water Treaty, the idea is not just to respond to terror, but to redraw how India negotiates with its neighbors. India signaled a break not just from Pakistan, but from its own restraint. With the treaty now in abeyance, India could move ahead with its run-on-the-river projects without any obstacles from Pakistan. As for the people in the Indus Basin, the river is not a matter of pact, it is the flow of life itself.